Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of Ways and Means Committee. I'm John Quincy, the chair, and joined by Council Members Yang, Council Vice President Glidden, and Council Member Andrew Johnson. And we're a quorum of the committee, and I expect Council Member Bender and Palomasano to be joining us shortly. We have on our agenda, I think it's pretty extensive today, we have 36 items. I'll read through the first 35 items of the consent agenda. And then we'll get to our final item, which is a discussion presentation about the 2018 Super Bowl 52 host committee. So we look forward to that in just a few moments. But the first item is from the city attorney's office. It's a legal settlement, workers' compensation claim. We also have a legal settlement with Detroit Renovations as item number 2. The convention center brings forward the low bid for exterior light replacement project. City Coordinator's Office brings forward a grant from Kresge Foundation for the Creative City Making Minneapolis program. Item number 5 is a gift acceptance for March 2017 donations. Item number 6 is from this is the rollover of 2016 funds into the 2017 budget. Item number 7 is the consolidated office building. This is a request for proposals for architectural and engineering services. Information Technology Department brings forward 2 items. One is a contract amendment with SecuroNet and a contract with Gartner for Enterprise Governance Program for IT systems. The Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee brings forward the grant acceptance from DEED. These are the DEED Redevelopment Grant Program. Item number 11 is the Metropolitan Council Livable Communities Demonstration Accounts and the Livable Communities Demonstration Account for Transit-Oriented Development grant applications. We have in committee, I know we took a couple of options on changing the priority ranking. So those are highlights of those items 1 and 2 that I wanted to point out to committee members. We also have referred from the Health, Environment, Community Engagement Committee a contract amendment with the Family Partnership for victims of sex trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation, as well as Health Partners Provider Insurance Agreement for school-based clinics, and a grant acceptance from the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization for summer interns. Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Committee brings forward the contract amendment with Minnesota State Patrol, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, and Metro Transit for the 2017 Safety Initiative, the Joint Enforcement Team, Jet Patrols. Item number 16 is the cooperative agreement with the Minneapolis Police Department and other law enforcement agencies for services for the 2018 Super Bowl events, and I imagine we can kind of blend that into the conversation on item number 36. Item number 17 is a contract with Hennepin County Community Outreach for the Co-Responder Pilot Program. Transportation and Public Works Committee brings forward the Washington Street Northeast resurfacing project for North and South Sheridan, 46th Avenue street reconstruction project, Nicollet Mall reconstruction project. It's an assessment change. A 2015 water service line repair and replacement. That's special assessments for one property. We also have a cooperative agreement with Hennepin County on West Lake Street, Lagoon Avenue crosswalks. Item number 24 is the 10th Avenue Storm Tunnel repairs, Phase 4 project. 25 is the PV Plaza gift acceptance from Green Minneapolis. 26, intern project agreement with Minnesota Technical Assistance Program. We also have the settlement for special assessment appeal on one item for number 27, bid for gray black Class A aggregate, and the bid for construction of 42nd Avenue North Street reconstruction project. Ready mix concrete bid, that's a low bid for item number 30. Item number 31 is a bid for drain tile utility access vaults. Item number 32 is the bid for asbestos abatement and lead-based paint removal at the Fridley filter plant. 33 is the bid for Anderson School crosswalk improvements, bid for Seward Bicycle Boulevard project, and the final item on the consent agenda is the bid for the 4th Street Southeast Street reconstruction project. Would there be any questions or comments from my colleagues here? Council Vice President Glidden.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you. I have a question. So you indicated, I think it was for item number 11, that we were going to, you're seeking approval as on an amended
Mhm.
resolution, and I just looked on the CD agenda page, and all it says is amended, and so I'm not understanding
Sure.
what changed. And so can you
Yeah.
describe what changed from the
Yes.
staff recommendation to what the committee approved, and what was the reason for that?
Yeah, the reason was for project readiness. This refers to the priority ranking for the grant applications, just change the order.
For
So
which one? Because
item
we
number
have the
2, it's,
Livable Communities Demonstration Account, and we have the Transit-Oriented Development Grant.
right, this is the TOD grant.
Okay,
Moves Minno Bimwazizilan
yep,
into first position instead of, I think it was third position. Just change the order for project readiness.
okay. All
It
right.
doesn't, it just changed the ranking of those projects.
Okay.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Yang, you were up as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to speak briefly with regards to item number 2.
Please do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an item that is with the property located in Ward 5, 1522 Hillside Avenue. We've had some controversy over this for a little while. In fact, it will probably be close to 5 years on this. And, you know, the bright side on this is that there is not going to be demo, and that there is an end in sight. There's certain predictability with regards to this. And, you know, when you look at the settlement agreements here, it speaks to 1522 being completed in terms of the development by October 15th, barring certain delays and subject to a 60-day cure period. Detroit Renovations putting in $150,000 for construction costs in that time period for them to do the work on this, and that Detroit Renovations will execute a quitclaim deed in favor of the city, which will be recorded in the event that Detroit Renovations does not complete the development at 1522 Hillside Avenue. So what that says to me is that by the end of the year, I mean, we will have some sort of resolution that is clear cut with regards to 1522 Hillside, and that is good news for the folks who live on Hillside, and that is good news for the folks in Ward 5. I want to thank staff, specifically staff at CPAD and staff at the City Attorney's Office. We're working really hard to get us to this point, and I'm looking forward to just saying yes to this and hopefully getting this thing done. 1522 Hillside is a beautiful home, and I'm glad we've saved it, but it has taken way too long to get it to a point where somebody can live in it, and I'm looking forward to that day that happens. And so I want to thank city staff for just working so hard to get this to where we're at right now. And this is a good settlement for the folks in Ward 5.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Piggybacking off of Council Vice President Glidden's questions on item number 11, I'm just trying to understand, is this lower portion here the new amended ordering? And did it just move that Minnow project up to the front from being in third place to jumping to the front of the list?
That's correct.
Gotcha. And
So the vote would be the amended action out of the committee was what appears as 1 and 2 underneath the action taken by committee. So that's the lower portion.
And I guess the question to staff would be, does that affect in any way the amount of funding any of these projects receive by reordering these as priorities?
I don't know if any CPED staff is available to answer that specifically. My understanding of it from committee was it is a recommendation, and in these council or Met Council Livable Community Development, we actually have the opportunity to rank them. We don't have the opportunity to decide the amounts or the awards. So unlike Hennepin County grants where they're unranked. So it only provides a preference from the city's perspective.
Sure.
It doesn't change the amount that's available or in the funding relationship.
And I understand it doesn't change the amount available. I guess my question would be, does the priority, if something is ranked number 1, is it more likely to receive more dollars than less? And the only reason I bring this up is because 38th Street Station was listed as number 1. Now it's listed as number 2. It's a project we've been working on for several years. It involves 4 different government agencies. It's ready to go, basically. It's going to be before Committee of the Whole, Planning Commission, Committee of the Whole, pretty quick here. And so it was surprising to see something else jump in front of it, but obviously I don't know the details about this Minnow one. But my primary concern here is that by changing the ranking, might we end up seeing less funding available for this project, which does have not only affordable housing in it, but also a lot of important public realm and TOD aspects.
Well, if you'd like, I'd be happy to see if we can have this pulled and see if we can get somebody from CPED. Ms. Holmes might be able to come down and address those specific questions. Otherwise, we'd be happy to, within this committee, forward without recommendation if we can't address that question for you.
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Maybe if, and did CDRS, they already approved re-ranking this?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, what I could do is I could just, hopefully we can have staff answer that question offline ahead of full council meeting. And since CDRS already looked at this,
Okay.
we'll just go with that. But I would like staff to follow up and at least have that conversation ahead of the meeting
Okay.
on Friday.
So would you prefer that we, out of committee here, send forward without recommendation?
I think we can just send everything through at this point, but I would like to hear from staff before Friday's meeting.
I'll make sure that request is provided, and we'll have CPED staff provide that information to you and the rest of the committee.
Great, thank you.
Further questions on the items 1 through 35? Not seeing any. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Those items carry, which brings us forward to our discussion items for this afternoon. Mr. Cronk, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Quincy, committee members, Spencer Cronk, City Coordinator. It's a pleasure to bring this item before you today. As you know, the Super Bowl will be hosted in the city of Minneapolis on February 4th, 2018, only 286 days away, but who's counting? It's really important that we are putting the appropriate planning efforts needed to be able to host an event like this in the future. So today, we're going to walk you through a presentation about the item that is before you, which is a funding agreement with the Super Bowl Host Committee, authorizing city staff to enter into that agreement and also make the necessary adjustments and amendments as needed as we determine further plans as they develop over the course of the next year. So to help with that presentation, we have 2 consultants on our staff. One is Brittany Allen and the other is Pat Bourne, and they will be walking through the slides for their presentation, and then staff will be happy to answer questions afterwards. So I'll first call up Brittany Allen, our consultant with the City of Minneapolis.
Okay. Thank you very much. Welcome, Ms. Allen.
Chair Quincy, council members, thanks for having us. So I just wanted to go over some of the basics as it relates to Super Bowl 52. It'll be held on February 4th in US Bank Stadium, starting with a full 10 days of events capped off by the game. There's approximately 15 Super Bowl events that will be covered by this agreement, with another 100 plus that will be held in the metro area. Minneapolis will hold the largest events, the game, Super Bowl Live, and Super Bowl Experience, and the metro area will host the other 13. Super Bowl 52, like many other Super Bowls, has been deemed a SEER Level 1 event that by the federal government. That's a special event assessment rating, and that sort of leads our thinking when we think about planning. These are the 15 events, as I mentioned: Super Bowl Experience, Super Bowl Live, and the stadium really being the main events.
Those are, Ms. Allen, those are the NFL events for the.
Correct. So
there's a lot of other private events that are
Yes.
associated with it.
Yes, Chair Quincy. These are the official NFL Super Bowl events, and there will be many other private or open to the public events that are held by other entities, sponsors, etc. We anticipate we will have about 1 million people in attendance for the 10 days of events, with approximately 400 million in economic impact to the metro area. We also expect about 5,000 members of the media to come to Minneapolis and the Twin Cities, with about a $500 million estimated value for earned media. And this is really an opportunity for Minneapolis and the Twin Cities to showcase themselves to the world with all these members of the media that are going to be here. So the Minnesota Super Bowl host committee was formed locally to help the NFL execute the events here. The host committee's focus is on those 15 events, and they will be the ones helping the NFL to execute them. They also have a Business Connect program, which helps supplier diversity and helps those underutilized businesses get involved in the event. And they have a legacy program, which is their charity arm, and they focus on children and health.
Yes, Council Vice President.
Going,
Sure.
if you could go backwards one slide.
Sure.
I just had a question on the Business Connect program,
Mhm.
the supplier diversity program. Have they set a goal for participation? Since you highlighted that.
We have the Super Bowl host committee here. And
Oh, okay.
Do you want to speak to
If you could join us at the podium, would we welcome your response?
I did really a quick question, so.
Yeah, it's a quick question, but if you had one, that would be great if you could introduce yourself, please.
All right, Committee Chair and Vice President. Yes, we do not set a financial goal for the business diversity, but we do set a participation goal. So we'll have over 300 small diverse businesses join within that group, so that we will showcase them for all NFL vendors that they will use as much as possible. They'll use the Business Connect program for their activation here within the Twin Cities. So,
Okay.
I assume that that's for local events that are happening in hotels or other venues to use these as providers of those services where possible.
yes.
Is there a portal or somehow, how do they get access to the this network, and how did one qualify to be a local participating vendor?
Yes, we've been having workshops and local organizing events for the diverse businesses within the community over the last several months. They all apply, and they actually then will apply in front of the host committee board, and the top 300 then will be submitted into the portal for all the NFL contractors to access.
And this has been done in other previous NFL experiences, and
Yes,
we have any
yes,
kind of
this-
track record that we can look forward to, or any barriers that we may be able to see if we can overcome?
Yes, this has been done in past Super Bowls. So this is the NFL program. We want to, as a host committee, create a legacy here for the Minnesota area. We've actually hired the diversity lead director from the stadium, Alex Tittle, to lead that program, and we expect this to be a legacy program that will be left behind.
So I'll just ask, so will you track so that we can understand what percentage of the contracts are going to, I mean, we use this language of small and underrepresented businesses, but
Right.
to whoever is in your pool of supplier diversity vendors, and anyway.
Yes, yes, we'll track, and we will have both percentages and amount of spend after the event.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
So the city will support the Super Bowl like it does every special event, but given the size and scope of the events, it requires a little bit more time and resources than we're normally used to. So that's what's prompted this funding agreement. Of course, public safety is our #1 concern with residents and visitors, and so that will be obviously a focus of what we're doing. We'll also rely on the surrounding municipalities, county government, and state governments to help us in this effort.
Mr. Bourne, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Pat Bourne, I'm a consultant to the city on major events. When Brittany and I began last July, our job was to understand the scope and the nature of the events relating to the Super Bowl and other major events the city will be hosting. So we began to school ourselves in how big is this thing, how long does it last, what is it composed of, and what's the nature of how the city responds to events like this. And then we began engaging city departments who hadn't already been engaged in understanding the scope and nature of this event, partly to start their planning work and then to convert that into money and resources. And so today, before you is the culmination of the planning work that has gone on to date. The departments you can see on the list are the departments that are most engaged in a major event of this magnitude. Not all of them will have costs that exceed their budgets in order to support this event, but many of them will, and I'll talk about that in just a second. We've had really terrific cooperation among city departments in the planning work that they've done, and our relationship with the host committee has really grown and developed substantially over the last 8 months. To the point now where I think we're ready to ask you for permission to proceed. Virtually every department in the city is touched somehow by the host committee. We haven't found a way to engage the assessor's office. Maybe it's just a matter of time. But you can see there are just a few departments that are not listed here. So the budget you're going to see reflects the scale and nature of the Super Bowl because it asks for more than what city budgets normally are able to support and beyond what typically police and the police relationship to special events and our permits normally recover costs as well. So the costs that have been estimated so far largely fall into overtime and some materials and some training and mutual aid in the case of the Emergency Operations Center and police. So those are the categories of expense that the city expects. So the budget that we see here, this almost $5 million, are the estimates, and they're pretty finely developed estimates by department. And you can see the magnitude is primarily for police, and distant second is public works. It's important to recognize that while there's been a huge amount of planning that's gone on so far by both the host committee and its contractors and the city and our staff, there still are a few open items that we will fill in with amendments to this agreement as we go on, probably by the end of the summer. One is likely to be in public works for the structures and signage that will be necessary to meet the mobility needs of Minneapolis. Secondly will be the convention center is likely to have additional pass-through costs to the production companies that will be making use of this space. The amount shown here for the convention center is the rent that's been established for the events that will take place in the convention center. We have also agreed with the host committee that payments to the city will be made in 3 installments that reflect when the city will be incurring its expenses. But the last payment will take place in mid-January before the bulk of the city's expenses, which will be through mutual aid, mostly police, and to a certain extent with the Minneapolis Emergency Center. The agreement also provides that the host committee will buy and pay for an insurance policy for police liability claims, much in the same way that a similar insurance policy was purchased when the Republican National Convention took place in St. Paul and Minneapolis 9 years ago. We also know that we can't anticipate everything, and so we've agreed to language that will provide for change orders that will likely come up if any of these 15 events change its size or scope, and that necessitates additional city resources. We want to be ready with new cost estimates and a scope change. And then there are contingencies that we can't anticipate that are also related to city costs. And so the agreement is going to have features that will allow additional expenses to be charged should the event change in a way that impacts these city expenses.
Mr. Bourne, I have a question from Council Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just, looking at this list, I had a question, which is, why is the insurance policy coverage that the host committee is purchasing limited to police liability claims? I just say this because we have Public Works is, of course, the other big entity that I am assuming will be doing lots of work to ensure that things are staged around the area properly. And anyway, so I'm just curious why that is.
The primary reason for police liability insurance relates to the willingness of other police agencies to make their officers available. And in doing a survey of the primary other municipalities that we're likely to ask and who are already engaged in planning work, was that they said, look, we'll take care of our own workers' comp claims should there be injuries to our employees at an event like this, but we really want somebody else, like you, city, or an insurance policy to deal with liability claims. It's for that reason that the liability and the police liability insurance was raised. So it had more to do with that than anticipating that there would be claims related to other city non-police actions.
Okay.
Anything else on budget to that point? I mentioned earlier that there would be additional expenses that we anticipate for the convention center and for Public Works. The one I failed to mention was parking. The city owns ramps and lots, as you know, all throughout downtown. They are close to many of the locations where these 15 events will take place. Not all 15 will occur in Minneapolis, but those that do occur in Minneapolis have parking needs that can be satisfied by Minneapolis parking lots and ramps. So we'll charge our event rates for those that we know when and where parking demand needs to be met. Once we know specifically from the host committee and their contractors how many spaces they need, in which ramps, on what day, we know what the price is. We simply will take that when they know that information and amend this agreement accordingly. So there are new revenues. Those don't come with costs. Those are new revenues for the city that we don't have. We don't know that specifically today, but we will, again, probably by the end of the summer when that planning work is far enough along where the host committee and their contractors would be able to tell us how much parking they want. So, Mr. Chair and members, that concludes our overview comments. We're all happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bourne. Thank you for the the entire team who's spent a lot of time, especially all the staff work that went into creating this. Certainly, we want a world-class event, and we want it done so that the city of Minneapolis looks terrific, but the guests that we welcome from around the world are safe and feel comfortable. So that's very, very exciting, ambitious plan, but we're on that stage and we're ready to do that. So I'm very pleased with that, very confident in our ability to execute that. And really pleased that this is an agreement with the host committee. So thank you for your commitment and willing to work with us on this. This is not a donation on the part of the city of Minneapolis. This is what I characterize as kind of a contractual relationship to recover those costs. And I think that's where we're looking for. We want to make sure that the taxpayers in Minneapolis are able to participate in this event, but those costs that we were hoping to avoid have been covered within this relationship with the host committee. So thank you very much for that partnership. Are there other questions, comments? Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a chance to be briefed by staff beforehand and so got a lot of the answers to those financial questions. I did want to note that so we will be having officers from multiple other jurisdictions as part of the team, and I know our staff is cognizant of the fact that we have done a lot of work with MPD to improve community relations, and so I asked that question about just sort of the perception of having law enforcement from across the region and different types of law enforcement, and so staff is just sort of aware of that issue, and you know, Chief Harteau will be the command officer for all of the law enforcement folks who are within the city during the Super Bowl. So I just wanted to note that issue. I don't know if it's being separately discussed in the Public Safety Committee, but and just that staff is cognizant of that, aware of it, and working on it with the chief.
Thank you. Mr. Kronk, did you have a comment or anything? Feel free to chime in.
Chair Quincy, council members, I really appreciate that comment, Councilmember Bender. It's really important that as all the events are, or most of the events are happening in Minneapolis, that we have that unified command within the city of Minneapolis. And so Chief Harteau and her senior team have the ability to work with those other jurisdictions to ensure that there's a culture that has been created through the efforts that Chief Harteau has been working on over the past several years. And so the ability that it is centrally managed, the city of Minneapolis through our police department has that insight and opportunity to ensure that we're creating an environment that is welcoming to all of our visitors, residents, and guests.
Thank you. Go ahead, Council Vice President.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to say, as someone who was on the council when we had our other maybe participation in an event that sort of rivaled this in size, which was the Republican National Convention, I just think it was a good move, a smart move to make sure that we were able to have staff or contract staff dedicated to work through the intricacies of such a complicated just arrangement with a very large entity that's managing a whole lot of other things, but these are details that are important to the city to just understand the scope of our participation and financial obligation, and then again making sure that the event is going to be managed very well and the city understands its role and all of that. So anyway, I think this was well done, and I appreciate the attention to this.
Thank you very much. Well done. Thank you. With that, I'd be happy to make a motion to accept not only the presentation, but authorizing the agreement, as well as the authority to amendments as needed under the agreement with the host committee to pay for additional city costs. For those two items, and for this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That item carries. Thank you very much. Thank you. That exhausts the agenda items for today, so we are adjourned. You know, one